So we're going to take a terrible topic, I'm going to flip it into something interesting. You're going to have to bear with me here, but it might actually even be fun, at least for me. So far this spring, I know somebody who lost his family home to wind, basically a tornado. Another who lost their home to fire, and a third who got hit by flooding so extreme they had to move out. Now, how do you take a topic like that and make that interesting or fun? Well, first of all, you don't know these wonderful people, so we're just going to focus on getting out of a bad situation as fast as possible. Maybe what you would grab, how you could organize things ahead of time so that you can grab it quickly and be able to grab enough to get by inside of, say, a 1-hour warning, maybe a 15-minute warning, maybe no warning at all. Before we get back to it, if you're looking for gold and silver, hit up SD Bullion. New customers can even get gold and silver for spot. That's sdbullion.com/new. So I'll just tell you right now, this is not going to be a prepper video. Probably splitting the room by saying that. I've thought through a lot of those things, but there are better people to give that kind of detail. And besides, I'm a little too practical to make that topic fun. I think you have to be a little impractical to go full prepper. You can fight me on that. Now, I have bug out bags. Maybe I don't call them that. They're meant for quick grabs. They're very specific to the climate and the seasons where I have them. And what I have in them isn't so much about, say, a zombie apocalypse. It's more about just what I think my family might need for a few days in the case of an emergency. And I just think a little bit of that kind of emergency planning is a responsible thing to do. Now, what I'm talking about here is a little bit different. I'm going to talk about the kinds of things that you'd normally keep locked up, you'd keep hidden, or both. So, valuables, things that you can't replace, things that you might need to get by for a bit. Now, I'm basic. A lot of my valuable things are gold or guns. Maybe I have a sword I couldn't replace, but some of the things, regardless of how expensive they are or how hard they'd be to replace, they're just not going to matter in certain circumstances, even if they're not insured. Now, I'm going to flip this case out for something that's a little more accurate on what we're talking about here. But overall, if my house is burning down around me, I'm getting the kids out, I'm getting the dogs out. And if you've ever been in an emergency situation, you know your brain doesn't function like normal. Lizard brain takes over. So I want a bag that I can grab without adding time, without adding thought, and that's what this is about. So here's how this works, at least for me. I have a large safe that I can get to quickly. It's fireproof, it's tool rated, it's too heavy to be drug out by a burglar, and it's also pretty easy for me to get to on my way out the door. No, it's not in my master closet, it's not in my office, the first and second places that would-be robbers would check, but it isn't buried deep in the basement foundation either. Now, this is where I keep important documents like passports, like birth certificates, a few other things, and I keep an undisclosed amount of gold in it. Now, I keep a little bit of cash in there, 2 backup drives, a ledger, and then between us, I have a handgun and a folding rifle in that safe as well. And we're not going to get into those details here, but there's more in there than monies. Now, I'm a little bit of a cases and cases guy. I like to organize things in a way that I could easily move them, but I can still get at them quickly when they're staying put. Here's what one of those cases looks like. I'm faking it here, but of course I keep some gold in it, just not necessarily this amount. I'm just kind of showing you some different configurations we can do with it, but it does have a dense stack model in it, and I like mint tubes for that. These are eagles, these are buffaloes, quarters, 1 ounce. We could put American silver eagles in there. You can put whatever you want. And then also, as you saw, I had a ledger in it. So these cases can fit an enormous amount of gold and silver. In that original configuration, if those mint tubes had been full, that would be well over $200,000. Now, one of the other things that I'm not afraid to fully disclose that I do have in the case are a few numismatic pieces. Let me get this back to normal and then I'll explain it. So I keep the Marcus Aurelius Aureus in it, partly because it fits, and then partly because I feel like I need to maintain a little bit of extra caution with anything that has historical interest. So this is one of many, but I would still feel bad if it was destroyed because I was flip with it. I have a few like that. I just want to make sure they're easy to grab. Now, this case doesn't look as fun as the first one, so I'm going to switch this up a little bit. But before I go any further into this conversation, a couple things. Things can be replaced. Money is not more important than a kid, and I'm not slowing down for a Roman aureus or anything else if the situation is bad enough. And the melting point of gold is 1900 degrees Fahrenheit, a little higher than that. So a house fire is never going to reach that temperature. Now, you're going to melt the plastic around it, but you will be able to recover your gold if it gets caught in a fire. So if I keep gold hidden in a few places and I don't have time to scoop it all up, it's going to be fine. That said, I'm always going to feel a little bit better if I would be able to just grab a little bit of it on my way out the door. Now, what else is in there? What's important enough to make this worth a whole video? Well, I mentioned gold, I mentioned a ledger. The ledger will melt, but I can recover what's on it. More details I won't get into, but it's another thing that I would just feel better having if it doesn't add time. Now, in the safe, I have fire bags with things like passports, birth certificates, and cash. I even have some gold backs in there. Why not? I have them. And then I have things like vehicle titles and deeds somewhere else entirely. They're also in fireproof bags, but that isn't something that I feel like I would need in some kind of act of God emergency. Now, I think I mentioned backup drives. A lot of what I would keep on a computer would be in the cloud. Two things scare me though. I want to have a current backup hard drive, and I want to have a hard drive with digitized photos and videos. I don't care if they're on the cloud. My wife wants easy access to them. So we're talking wedding photos, baby pictures, all the things that she would put above my swords, my guns, my gold, and my cash, I keep in the same place. She has her priorities wrong, but I'm not going to try to change her mind. So in the particular safe we're talking about here, I also have a backpack, and it has gun things, including a heavy gun. Well, it's a double stamp folding gun. It has some basic supplies, and it has a first aid kit, the kind of first aid kit you can get on Amazon. I have them everywhere. It has some keys. It has small solar chargers, things like that. A lot of the little things that I'm not going to get into, but it is not what I would call a bug out bag. And then I have this Business Bro leather bag that you're seeing here, or one just like it. Now, if I was a prepper, I would say that it should be a beat-up gray man bag that looks like it holds dirty rags and tin cans. Like I said, I haven't been inducted into the Prepper Club. Now, it's less than half full. I leave the hard drives in it, and these, by the way, are the hard drive cases. I keep a thumb drive or two in it, and then a fire bag with some other important things. You can see this Vault-Tec case here. This is a small portable gun safe. I keep that in it as well. I leave the whole thing unzipped, of course, and I could quickly scoop the case that's not in it and the bag that's not in it in just a few seconds. So the case has the gold, the Marcus Aurelius, and the ledger. The other fire bag I'm talking about has the cash, the passports, and the birth certificates. I drop those in, and I'm out. Now, how likely is any of this? What are the chances your house is going to be hit by lightning? They're not very high, but there are a lot of different situations where some basic planning is just helpful, and this really couldn't be any simpler once you've thought it through. You've either thought it through or you haven't. Now, if you haven't, I think that you should. And if you have, maybe this is still interesting. I always like this kind of thing. And having those 3 recent stories kind of put me on tilt. Those people I mentioned just lost varying degrees of everything. Now, if putting a little bit of forethought into this kind of planning saves some irreplaceable items, makes your time with no home a little easier, I would say it's well worth it. So an important note here, if you're watching this while considering more comprehensive storage, like how do you store your gold in your house, this is not the way. This is for the things that you might need in a short-term emergency or things that you could never replace. Typically how this happens is if you make things easier for you to get, you're also making it easier for others to get. Now, silver and gold, they both have melting points much higher than the temperature of a house fire. Both can handle water submersion and not lose value. And if you keep them in a tool-rated safe that weighs 1,000 pounds, even a tornado can shoot it out the roof. The chances are good you're still going to recover it. So my goal here is definitely not to make all my gold easy to get to. It's kind of the opposite. I only want enough that would be easy to get to and easy to transport. So let's do a quick rundown here of the cases and the bags for the gear nerds in the crowd. I know you're there. I've shown these Pelican cases here before. I think they're great size. If you want, you can easily fit 50 ounces of gold, 40 to 60 ounces of silver. Hell, you can fit 90 ounces of gold and 40 ounces of silver inside mint tubes. You can even stack graded slabs on top. So for you whales out there, you can fit an enormous amount of wealth in a small case like this. And I forgot about the ledger. You can fit a ledger in there for all your Dogecoins. That's important too. Fire bags, also very important. I'm sure there are hundreds of brands to choose from. I don't know why I've been showing this label here real quick. They're not sponsoring or anything like that. But I would say that I'm obsessed enough that I probably checked all the reviews on all the bags. And turns out these work well. So I'll leave a link in the description. And then the backpacks, the Satchel here, the leather Go Satchel, it's Satchel and Page. The backpacks that I have are Eberly stock. Now everyone's going to have their favorite. Use what you already have. I do like Patagonia's waterproof stuff. Eberly stock. I think I have a Big Trick in that safe. I probably have all of them. I've got a Big Trick, Little Trick, Jackknife. They all work great. That's a Vault-Tec safe there. I've got a Clayton and Kroom flask on the desk. I don't really know why I put it there. I guess I was thinking you're going to need a drink. And then I have a full-size folding knife in really every bag I have. That one happens to be a Shirogorov. I also keep the hard drives in color-coded cases just so I know where they are and what is on them. And I think that's everything on the desk here. I really should have grabbed one of the first aid kits, one of the solar chargers, because I think that's just about as important as anything else here, but I didn't have the room and frame. So that's the general stuff. If you're a gear nerd, I'll get you some links in the description, but all of this is the stuff that I think is really important to have quick access to, just in case. So let me know what you think here. If you're interested in the gear, the organization side of things, I would love to hear that feedback. I enjoy that stuff. Maybe I'll even do a run through of a similar safe setup, like actually going into the safe. Now, YouTube's not going to like all the things that I have in it. That's one of the reasons I set up a second channel. Maybe we'll have to do it there. Maybe not. Either way, let us know what you think, and we're going to call it good there. So let us know what you're up to in the comments, whether you already have a plan like this, or if you need one, let us know. And then while you're in the comments, be sure to hit that like button if you found any of this interesting. Be sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you want to hear more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.